room today, and I'm making little wine cozies or cocktail cozies. And this that I show you today is for a glass like so. They're the short wine glasses that you can find anywhere, and this one is about 4 or 5 inches tall. And I want to thank my sister-in-law Barb for inspiring this pattern. She contacted me one day and said she really needed a cozy for her glass because her hands were always getting cold holding on to it from the ice. And she loved this. I thought I would share it with you. So let's get started. I'll show you how to make it. You'll need to cut one outer fabric, 12 inches by 7 inches, and one lining fabric, same thing, 12 inches by 7 inches. And you'll need a piece of batting cut, same thing, 12 inches by 7 inches. And I recommend this Insulbright product. It's called Insulating Thermal Lining, and it just works great. And it says here it reflects hot and cold energy back to its source. Perfect for a cozy. And then you'll also need some elastic, and you'll need a 1/4 inch width, as you can see here. And that's just to go around the top of your cozy. The first thing I'll do is take my outer fabric and place it on top of my batting. And I'll take it to the machine and just do a little bit of machine quilting to attach it to the batting. So I'll just probably do a line right down the middle, and then probably a line down the middle again, and then one here and one here. And I have my ruler at 3.5 inches here just to find my center, and you don't have to be exact here. And I just have a water-soluble marking pencil, and I'll just draw a light line right through here. And then I'll do the same thing in this direction. I have it lined up at the 6-inch mark. Here it's at 0 to 6. And now I have it at the 3-inch mark. And again, 3-inch mark. And I'm using an open-toed presser foot. I just like to use those so I can see pretty clearly. And I'll just follow my quilting lines and the best that I can see them. And now I'll do my 3 lines going in the opposite direction. My fabric and my batting got misaligned because I did not baste this together at all. So it's okay though, it doesn't matter. I'll just trim off the batting. And then I'll trim off right here as well. Along this 12-inch side, just on one of the sides, at the very top, down about 1.5 inches, and the same thing, the bottom, up about 1.5 inches, I'll run a zigzag stitch right along the edge. And this is just for my opening for my elastic. I'll just run it down about 1.5 inches or so. That looks good. And I'll cut it off. And it just, if you can see that, right along the edge, like so, and I'll repeat that on the bottom. And that's what it looks like. Now I'll take my outer panel that's quilted and I'll fold it right sides together, like so, and I'll measure down from the area where I've done my zigzag stitch. From the top, I'll measure down 1 inch. Now I'll sew down each of these sides with my regular presser foot, and I'll line up carefully with my quilt marks just so they kind of match. And then on the fold, I just try to make sure that there's no tucks or anything. And if you want, you can place a pin right there. Again, I'll take it to the machine and I'll sew with my regular presser foot down here, and I will stop or start right at my drawn line. And then on the other side, regular presser foot all the way down. And I'll secure my stitches here. So that's what it looks like, and then so the top is unsewn right here. And also the other side, and as I mentioned, you don't have to start an inch from the bottom. Just start right at the top. And to give it some structure on the bottom, I will box the corners, and all you do is fold it like so. So here's my bottom, and then it just forms a triangle. I'll sew along here, and I want to sew a line that's approximately 3 inches. So I'll just use my ruler. That looks good. And then I will just draw a stitching line. And I'll pin. And I'll do the same thing on my other corner. Fold it and measure 3 inches. And pin. And I'll take it to the machine and sew right along my drawn line. And then off camera, I'll repeat that with my other corner. Now that it's sewn, take your scissors and cut from towards your triangle point about 1/4 inch from your stitch line. And this doesn't have to be exact either. I'm just cutting that excess fabric. And I'll repeat that on the other corner. And I'll show you how it looks right side out. Push those corners out. So that's the bottom, so it's nice and flat. And that's how it looks so far. And we'll set that aside and work on the lining. For the lining, it's basically the same thing. Right sides together. And I'll just give it a little pin. And I will secure my stitches. And secure stitches at the bottom. And I'll repeat that off camera on my other side. I'll box the corners of the lining the same exact way as I did my outer fabric. I have my corners stitched. Again, I will snip off my excess fabric here. And I'll flip it out so you can see what it looks like. I have my main fabric flipped wrong side out, and I'll place my lining fabric right side out into my main fabric. And you just want to remember that you want the right sides touching. And then I'll just simply line up along the side, these side seams. And I'll pin. And you can pin right at the seam, and just make sure that one seam is going one direction, one's going the other, or that you press them open. Either way is fine. And I'll place a pin on each side as well. Just kind of make sure it's nice and smooth. And you do need to leave part of your seam open for turning right side out. I like to mark it with double pins. That just signals me to start and stop sewing. And I'll put a double pin here. And so I'll leave this part blank with no sewing for turning. I'll take it to the machine. I'll sew all along the top, my lining to my outer fabric with a 1/4 inch presser foot this time. And then you just sew a few stitches and then reorganize yourself. And I'm coming up to where I started, right after this seam. And then tie off. And I'll remove those pins. And I have this gap for turning. And turn right side out. And fold your edges under where your opening is, like so. And just kind of give it a little press there. And pin. Press all along the top. I have it all pressed. Here's the opening in the side for our elastic. We'll go right through there. And first, before I insert my elastic, I'll make a little casing for it. So I'll stitch about 1/8 of an inch right here, and then that will close up this gap. And then I'll come down here and do another line of stitching all along the top to create the casing to put the elastic. And I will actually pull my thread up, my bobbin thread up to the surface. And that'll ensure that I don't have a big bobbin thread mess on the back. And just try to meet up your stitches the best you can. It does not have to be perfect. To run my second stitch, I want to start right about here where I had stopped sewing for my opening. And it should measure about 3/4 of an inch from the top. So I'll run my line right along here. And you can measure and mark it, or you can just eyeball it going around, which is what I'm going to do. And I'll show you how to do that right now. What I'll do is line my needle up right here to start with. And I'll pull my thread, my bobbin thread to the surface, just like I did before. And to eyeball it, what I do, it doesn't come out perfect, but it's good enough for me. What I do is I just follow along, so I make note of where the edge of my presser foot is in relation to my first stitch line, and I just try to keep it as even as I can. And I'll just show you what I mean. And just smooth as you go. And if you are picky, which, you know, I realize some people are, go ahead and measure and draw a stitch line. And take your elastic, and I just kind of cut off a piece about the length of the top to start with, and then I will trim it later after I feed it through, just to get a piece to work with. And use a safety pin to guide the elastic through your casing. And you just kind of bunch it up as you go. And just pull. I just kind of pull and play with it a little bit. I'll use my glass just to test it out. And I kind of like that fit right there. And I'll just tie the elastic. And snip the ends off. And then I'll work that knot into my casing. I'll just gently use my stiletto, because it's very sharp, just to kind of push it into my fabrics. And it's all ready for your glass. If you want more room on the top, you can simply flip the top over and put your glass in, and you have a little bit more room on the top. There you have it, a wine or cocktail cozy. Keep your drink nice and cold, your hands warm. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I just want to tell you the story about my Coozie. My hands get really cold when I drink my glass of wine, especially in the wintertime. Maybe yours do too. So I texted my sister and asked her, could you make me anything that would fit my wine glass so that I could hold it and not get freezing fingers and maybe keep my wine a little colder because I like cold wine. So a few weeks later I get my Coozie in the mail. And this thing is just the greatest little thing you ever wanted. It fits it perfectly. It's round. It just, see how it engulfs it? It's not straight up like the ones you buy in the store. And it's pretty, and everybody wants one. And I can wash it, and it comes out beautifully. I just can't thank her enough. It's a cute little Coozie. Thank you, Susie.